Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you can catch new spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so you can join in on the notification squad. Alright, so lately I've been getting a lot of Black Panther inquiries about how the suit does this, how it does that. How does it materialize in the comics? Is it part magic? And why can't Tony Stark's suit do this in the MCU? And I'm sure that his will at one point, but the technology that he uses to pull off a similar effect is way different than what T'Challa uses with his suit. And that's the main thing that I want to talk about here, because even though there's differences between the story arcs with the comics and with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a lot of the core principles that they use in the film stay the same as they were in the comics. And I'll break down what that means for the Black Panther suit, as well as Killmonger's version of the suit, and what this possibly could mean for future Iron Man suits in the MCU. So first thing I want to do is start with Black Panther. And over the years, his suits have seen a number of upgrades. But even in its most primitive form, he's always had the advantage of his suit being made of vibranium. And we really don't know how many Panthers before him wore a suit made of vibranium. We just know that T'Challa is the first Black Panther that we're introduced to in Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 52. And when we see him with it there, it's woven just like regular clothes would be woven, and you gotta put it on piece by piece. And it had a few functions that it was capable of, but they were very few and far between. And for the most part, T'Challa only took advantage of the functionality of vibranium being able to absorb sound. And because of that, he could sneak around completely undetected. He can get the drop on somebody and they never knew he was coming. The stealth part alone was very helpful, but on top of that, it can also absorb momentum, which is not only helpful on taking hits, but also giving hits as well too. And that alone has been huge for this character from day one. Because it's not often that you see him use weapons, which he does use on occasion from time to time. But for the most part, he's hands-on. And having the suit made of vibranium takes away a lot of the wear and tear that would naturally go on his body that he would have to sustain if he was doing this with a suit made of anything else. But also with the vibranium absorbing the shock and the momentum, it's much easier on his joints over time. And just talking about the functionality, it almost makes me feel like I should put a link in the description where you can buy one of these. But as far as functionality in the earlier renditions of the costume, like I mentioned earlier, they were very minimal. And as far as weapons, initially he would just use like daggers, smoke, pellets, but nothing really too high-tech till later on. And the style of the suit has changed quite a bit since its first appearance in 1966, but we really didn't get too many different versions of the suit until your late 90s, early 2000s. And I also want to say that this light armor that he used going up against Dr. Doom was the first time that we saw his armor actually like wrap around him. And this was like around 2006. But what I really like is when he does this, Doom is like, yeah, that's nice, but I built armor like that when I was like 15. And T'Challa's like, oh, that's nice, yeah, I made this when I was 12. Yeah, and Doom couldn't really say nothing after that. He was just stuck there looking stupid. But for a lot of these variations, we really don't see a lot of his functionality. We just know that it's a heavier armor that allows him to withstand more malicious attacks. That and the fact that it's consecrated in the name of the Panther god Bast, and that he uses his armor in the combination with other sacred weapons. And really for the Black Panther character, when you reached around year 2006 and going forward, it came to the point where you had a Black Panther suit for every occasion. And although some of their versions had some similarities with Tony Stark and his armor, because when they're both faced with a similar threat, it makes sense that they both will build similar suits. But even taking that into consideration, your execution of weaponry and design is handled very different between the two. And one of your best examples with that will be your Black Panther version of the Hulkbuster suit. And this version of the suit is one that came about more recently around 2016, and we first see it in Totally Awesome Hulk issue number 9 during Marvel Civil War II event. And this issue came out around July 2016, but earlier that same year, around April, we got a brand new fresh volume in issue 1 of Black Panther. And under the writing of Ta-Nehisi Coates, the illustrations of Brian Stilfreeze, and the crazy vivid coloring of Laura Martin, a new take on the Black Panther's armor had been born. And it's in the new issues of Black Panther where we really begin to see the crazy shapes that resemble the language of Wakanda, and we see that technology able to cover or reveal T'Challa in his suit. And when we jump forward to Totally Awesome Hulk number 9, we see that Black Panther's Hulkbuster armor, or the Wakanda Buster, takes on that same functionality in order for him to enter and exit the suit. And this is pretty substantial because the reason that T'Challa's suits are able to materialize like this and form back is because of the substance that it's made of, which is vibranium. And the molecular properties that allow vibranium to absorb sound and momentum, but it can also release that energy from momentum to power the suit. And in the same way that the element can absorb sound, it can also transfer into sound. And in years prior, that's something that we saw more with Ulysses Claw, initially changing his hand into different constructs and later changing his entire body into pure sound energy. And it's really the advantages of vibranium as an element that set apart Iron Man from Black Panther. Because with Wakanda having access to so much of this element for so many years, they've come up with countless numbers of unconventional ways to incorporate its science with their advanced technology. And by having this large supply of vibranium for their research and development, it is the #1 reason why they have the most advanced technology on the planet. And with Marvel Legacy, it might be the whole galaxy now. Who knows what other elements they found on that new planet. But as of right now, we'll just talk about the vibranium usage because that's the only alien element that he's been using in his armor so far. But even with the main advantages that we mentioned, like it being able to move more quietly, absorb momentous energy, and absorb sound, like stuff like that, yeah, they help when you're caught in the Hulk's thunderclap, but at the same time, it doesn't 100% erase momentum or erase sound. And that's why when he uses it in his normal size suits, he's able to move real stealthy. And in the Hulkbuster, he can dampen the damage from a thunderclap, but still at the end of the day, this material is not indestructible. And so now the next thing is actually a question that I got about the color, the glow, the purple. So now as far as the film, there's no telling what liberties they took with it. But as far as the comics, T'Challa explains that his suits or even his armor absorb energy and is even capable of magnifying it. And that's really where we get that purple or pink glow that we see whenever the suit materializes or expels any type of energy. And once again, this is explained in Totally Awesome Hulk #9 and also in your early issues of the latest Black Panther series. But yeah, that's one thing I really wanted to clear up because some people were mentioning to me that they were told that it was magic, and there are magical aspects about the character, more so when you talk about his connection to Bast, but the abilities he gains from that connection have nothing to do with his suit or the technology in any of them. Because the way his suits are constructed, unlike Iron Man, he doesn't have an arc reactor or battery source, so to speak. And that's what I really like about the more recent issues of Black Panther, because they explain more specifically that this is where that energy is getting pulled from the vibranium itself. So whether it's an actual suit or even it's a spear, like whatever the item may be, if it's constructed of vibranium, then it's able to expel the energy that is absorbed either as a power source or even as a concussive force. And essentially with every point of contact, his suits and other Wakandan weapons are constantly absorbing energy and potentially supplied with a limitless amount of power. And the daggers that he throws are another thing that's evolved over the years. In the past they were just physical daggers, but in the most recent issues of Ultimates, we see those same daggers expel energy as well. But as far as Killmonger, who does get his version of the suit at one point in time, like it's mentioned in Black Panther Volume 3 issue 37 that he gets enhancements made to his suit with the help of a character named the Red Ghost. Now, is he in the film or nah? I don't know. But in the comics, the advancements that were made by the Red Ghost were nowhere near the advancements we've seen starting around 2016 in the new Black Panther series. But rather, they were more like additional devices built into the suit. But in addition to the new versions of the Black Panther suit, with it being able to absorb energy, I've also been asked the question that does the new suit make him stronger? Now, as far as the Hulkbuster suit, that's an obvious yes. But as far as for his suit at a more conventional size, I haven't seen anything that confirms or denies that. And if we find out at some point in the future that it does, it's definitely not going to be anything super substantial to where he can lift a bus over his head or something like that. But rather, like I mentioned earlier, his strength comes from his connection to Bast. And that connection to Bast is made stronger from consuming the heart-shaped herb, which is only found in Wakanda. And the heart-shaped herb has been said to be a gift from Bast for the Black Panthers to consume in ceremony, but it's also been said to be just a plant that was mutated by the Mound, which is a huge meteor of vibranium that fell to Wakanda thousands of years ago. But either way, it's the consumption of this herb that strengthens the Black Panthers' connection and gives them their boosted speed, senses, and agility. But to answer other questions that pertain to Tony Stark and will we get that bleeding edge armor or even some form of superior Iron Man armor in the MCU, I would have to say that we're more likely to get bleeding edge because as of Iron Man 3, Tony started injecting himself with the early version of the nanotechnology, which is what makes up the bleeding edge armor. Just that with the bleeding edge armor, there's way more of it, like billions more, and it goes much deeper, like bone deep. And I'd say we'd be more likely to see that and potentially have it evolve to the Uru armor. And keep in mind from the Uru armor video that this is actually the bleeding edge armor just dipped in Uru metal. And with the help of Odin's magic, it too could form itself around Tony's body. And now still, even with that being partially introduced so far in the MCU, actually seeing Tony go to Asgard and Odin allowing him to do this is a far stretch by the imagination, as far as the films go. And then if you want to bring in the possibility of Tony producing armor that's based on symbiotes, we're an even longer way from seeing that. Because even though we got Spider-Man, we still haven't had any kind of Venom symbiote introduced to the MCU that we can base this off of. But hopefully sometime soon in the MCU we'll be able to get Iron Man with the bleeding edge armor, but as of right now in that universe it only makes sense that he hasn't achieved it yet, because the same technology that he injected himself with in Iron Man 3 has become a lot smaller and a lot more in order to achieve that, and T'Challa has a huge advantage of working with an element that can literally turn into sound. But that'll do it for this one, guys. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and smash that like button for your boy, and if you got any questions you gotta leave them in the comments here or get at me on Twitter. I got links up here so you can see some of my other videos too. Do enjoy, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Alright, later.